Hey, this is Trevor Shand from Bloody Disgusting's Boo Crew podcast. There's a streaming service that has undeniably changed our lives as horror fans. It's called Shudder. It's got an unbeatable selection of everything in the genre, from thrillers to the supernatural, Hollywood favorites, cult classics, and exclusives from the most exciting and adventurous creators in the space that you're not going to find anywhere else. It's uncut, commercial-free. We have discovered so many of what have become our all-time favorites on Shudder. Psycho Goreman, original series like the legendary Greg Nicotero's Creepshow. Sign up at Shudder.com.
Okay, hey everybody, welcome to this special episode of The Wire Stripped. I'm Kobe.
I'm Dave.
And we have a couple of other special people joining us today. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm T-Bone.
And I'm Obi.
Producer Tom and producer Obi are joining us here. That's how special it is.
It's the whole Wire Strip crew.
It is.
Together
and
on audio for the first time.
True. Hopefully it doesn't take something like this momentous occasion to get us together on a Zoom screen again. But I don't know, guys, do you want to say what this occasion was that's bringing us together?
Yeah, I guess, it's the very sad circumstances around the death of Michael K. Williams, who, as everybody will know, famously portrayed Omar Little in The Wire. So we thought we'd, we were all a bit, as everybody else was, a bit just taken aback by this news, tragic event. And it's been a few days, and we thought we thought it'd be worthwhile just jumping on and honouring him a little bit, paying tribute to him and his work in the Wire mostly, and just beyond. So Here we are.
I mean, we all heard a few days ago, as this goes out, his passing in the news, and it's one of those things. Every time when these people pass, they've been a part of your life in some way. I read the headline like 20 times just to, you get the headline, Michael K. Williams found, and I'm like, hopefully it doesn't say the next word I hope that it is leading to, and inevitably it does. And it's always gutting when you do read it and reread it and then check other links, and it's like, yeah, it's true, he's passed away by himself. Circumstances aren't fully come to light as we record this. We're not in the news business, but I think it's worth just saying a few notes about that. I guess, Tom, you had a few words that you wanted to say at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what happened. People have said that drugs were involved or have been involved, but that can just be an assumption, can't it? I don't know if that's come from an authority, but for me, the big thing about it is, as you mentioned, Kobe, like just a man dying alone, and that is, for me, no matter what the circumstances, it's just, I just find that so heartbreaking, and whether it's just suicide or misadventure, and I say I think both of those things are two sides of the same coin. I think you don't go so far with that misadventure if you're not chasing oblivion, if you're not willing to risk losing your life. You can sort of see people don't value that. When people go that far, they don't value their lives as much. I mean, listen, I might be speaking out of turn, and it might turn out that this was just an accident, but that's the sort of thing that it brings up in me. I'm a person myself who has had suicidal thoughts. I don't think I'll ever take action on those thoughts. I've got a family and I've got people that I love to keep me going, but life does get on top of you, particularly in the last 2 years. My problems have just been exacerbated in the last 2 years, and that's because of being cut off from people, not having my normal life, my normal freedoms, and not doing things socially, and you lose that nourishment. So it's just, look, listen, I was hit so hard by this. It brought up a lot of feelings. It's incredibly sad, but more so than with other people, we're bombarded by headlines at the moment. It feels like, we're talking. I work in music, and Charlie Watts passed away, and that was one that was a big one for us. Because I've met with a couple of the Rolling Stones. I've done a couple of interviews with people like Keith and Ronnie and stuff. So that was quite close. But Michael K. Williams was just, some of them are closer than others, and this one felt incredibly close.
it's one of those, and obviously we have a podcast about The Wire, so it was bound to hit us harder than others. But in the past 10, 15 years, Whitney Houston, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the man who played the Joker in Batman,
Heath Ledger. Yeah.
Heath Ledger. So this is a story we hope we don't hear. Robin Williams was a huge one for me.
Caroline Flack. I mean, some of us here will probably have worked with Caroline, I would have thought.
So obviously we're not going to labour the point too much, but guys, if you are in a position where you're feeling kind of alone, do reach out to someone, because it's important. It's important to speak to someone. It's important to get friends around you, get hugs. Tom's moving to Nottingham because that's how. Have
you ever moved to Nottingham? I mean, Nottingham is like basically they call it the city of hugs. That's what it's known as. That's a nice pivot. Actually, we should probably pivot because this is actually going to be an uplifting episode as well. We are going to share our highlights of Michael Williams' career in The Wire and outside The Wire. I think one of the sad things, though, guys, is he was always a dream guest of ours as well. He was a dream guest, wasn't he? And we always top of the list every series, and now that will never happen. And I find that just so sad.
It's one of those things that it was like that's a bit selfish, but also it's like, oh, for fuck. But yeah, it is true. But I think we should go into some of the pieces of work that we love of his. Obi, we don't hear you so much on the show, so it'd be good for you to start out. Where do you like? Where have you experienced MKW outside of The Wire?
I thought I was going to choose like a really big piece, but actually I'm going to choose something that happened last week because we've been rewatching The Sopranos.
Yes.
And there's the episode where Jackie Aprio runs away to go and hide in the hood. So he knocks on the door, and it opens, and it's Omar there stood in front of you, and he's like, it's like the really cheeky Omar. He's like got the really cheeky smile, and it's the deep, smooth voice, and he's like, yeah, come and stay. I think he says, come and stay at the Boonton Holiday Inn. And it's not. I guess it's not. Probably wasn't a role of like much significance to him, but I think me and my wife sat there watching. We're just kind of like, wow, it's Omar again, and I think. I don't know. It's kind of sad. No matter what he'll do, that character will be linked to him. But I think that's important too. It was just such a special role, and it always feels like a celebration when you see him in anything. So even though it was just like a 1-minute role, it felt kind of like meeting an old friend, and yeah.
Where does that sit in his career? I'm trying to think when it is. It's before The Wire.
Yeah, it's before The Wire. Yeah, definitely.
So it's a good just take a role, take a line, get seen sort of.
It was pretty much.
To be in The Sopranos and The Wire, and then Boardwalk Empire as well. We're talking about great series.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty great career, isn't it?
Well, tell us about Chalky White then, Tom, in Boardwalk Empire.
Well, do you know what? I actually, Chalky White is just a fantastic character in Boardwalk. I loved Boardwalk Empire, and Chalky's probably one of the best characters in it. But actually, one of the series I've watched him in recently, and he's brilliant in it. And he's only in it for 3 episodes. Is Community. And I forgot that he appears in Community. And also, I still don't really know why he appears in Community. It was great, though.
I did a rewatch of Community recently, and when he came into it, I was like, oh yeah, fucking hell, Omar's in this. Yeah. And he has this like weird bit where he's like, guys, what happened to Lego? It used to be like really simple, but now it's like really complicated. So what happened to it? And everyone's like, they're all like stone faced, and it's like, Lego guys. It's just like
that was the one I was going to mention as well. The Michael K. Williams in Community was such a weird bit of casting, but it really worked. And he's in one of my favorite episodes, which is the Law and Order one about trying to crack who killed the potato plant.
The potato plant, yes.
Yeah. And what's so good about him in that is the same reason why like Leslie Nielsen worked in all Airplane.
Yes.
He's
playing it straight.
He's so straight. He's so deadpan, and he's kind of doing the same intimidating sort of character that he kind of he always brought an edge to all his characters. Right? He was kind of a bit scary. Like in most of his characters, there was a darkness to him, and that in a comedy role was just perfect for some reason.
I'm gonna go for he played a character called Bobby McRae in a dramatisation of the Central Park drama When They See Us, as directed by Ava DuVernay, and he played one of the characters' dads, Antron McRae. Yes, so he played Antron McRae's dad, and the story of the Central Park Five is such a dark story, and obviously ties in a lot with I guess Black Lives Matter now, where he had 5 kids who were just happened to be in Central Park, but then the police fitted them up for the rape and murder of a young lady, and they were completely innocent of it. And he plays one of their dads, and he's a tour de force in that.
Yeah. And
then there's I saw an interview with Oprah and Ava DuVernay and Michael K. Williams in that afterwards. It's also on Netflix. It's all on Netflix, by the way, and he was just great talking about the circumstances that lead up to those kind of fit-ups with the police, saying he was a victim of wiling himself, which is how he got his scar on his face. And it's just such a powerful documentary, not as light as Community, obviously, but I think that's the kind of thing that he could bring. He could do the light, he could do also the super serious dark side of things as well.
I'm interested. This has made me look through his sort of filmography and stuff. And I was saying to you before we came on air, this week I'm struggling to keep on top of pop culture, so I'm going to watch 3 films this week. I'm going to make sort of set time to watch them. And one of the ones I pulled out, just purely by coincidence, is there was a Beastie Boys documentary from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's on Apple, isn't it?
It is, and Michael K. Williams is in it, and he plays Bob Dylan. And I don't know how that's done, I've got that on the agenda for this week. I will.
Let us know.
I will let you know. He's an extraordinary career. I mean, actually, TV-wise, I mean, he's appeared in some of the big, all the powerhouse US ones. We've mentioned The Wire and Sopranos, Boardwalk, but he's done the CSNY or whatever it's called, those sort of things, CSI New York, whatever. He's done all those. Film-wise, though, there's a lot of films that I haven't seen him in. I mean, I should have seen 12 Years a Slave. So one of you must be able to speak about that, guys, surely.
Yeah, he plays a character who's taken on a boat with Chiwetel Ejiofor's character. And, it's a small scene of him, and I think that kind of typifies his film career. He hasn't really struck big in films. He's played a lot of smaller characters, and it's always a pleasure to see him in them. And this is another small, impactful character as well, that Samuel Northrop, I think it is, meets along the way, as just after he's been kidnapped. So yeah, it's small and powerful, I guess.
I just wanted to mention there's Lovecraft Country on
I've not seen that yet.
Amazon.
Yeah,
We've only just started watching it, and he's fantastic in that as well. It's strange, he kind of feels like he's been in these great sort of black TV and cinema. He's just kind of a constant force everywhere. Yeah.
I want to watch that.
It's good. It's dark, but it's good.
I think to a point that Kobe made there, that he kind of appeared a lot in relatively minor roles. And that's kind of what Philip Seymour Hoffman was really good at as well. Is that character actor type where they were rarely leads, but they kind of often stole the show, right? Because there was something just so charismatic and engaging about both of them.
I can remember actually literally experiencing it like that when he turns up in The Road. When he just he's so barely in The Road, and they just use him. I think they use him because they know exactly what he brings with him. Just for that. A lot of people would have seen The Wire and just brought a lot of emotions and thoughts with them just to imprint on that character straight away. Do you know what I mean? But you talk about 12 Years a Slave, though, and you're talking about the sort of black TV that he's been in. We're going to talk about key scenes in The Wire that he featured in, and I was watching your guys' selections last night, and I think one of the ones we're going to talk about is probably the best scene on TV between 2 black actors of all time, arguably 2 actors of all time. It's just one of the most incredible scenes. So should we do it? Is that
the face-off scene?
Well, let's do it. Let's do it.
Sure, let's go into that. So we each chose one of our favourite Omar scenes for this, and we're going to go through these in order, and then we'll talk about a few of the scenes we haven't picked up between us. I think Tom's probably talking about the scene between Omar and Brother Muzone. Season 3, we talked about this in a recent...
I'm actually not, but that is another one.
Go on, go. Who are you talking about?
Are you talking about Omar and Bunk?
Omar and Bunk.
Omar
and Bunk. And and I think Wendell Pierce has been. I don't know if you've read anything that Wendell Pierce has said or seen him on Twitter and stuff. I think we probably
Whose scene was this, by the way?
What's that? I don't know if anyone selected it. I just watched it. Maybe it just clicked on automatically on YouTube last night.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But listen, we'll chuck it in there because me and my wife watched it and we were just like, that is pure Shakespearean brilliance. And it's the scene with Bunk and Omar, and it's set up a little bit like a western where they meet because they're the only two guys in town apparently. Like, it's just an empty, what looks like a railway station. Those two guys on a bench. Now, listen, I haven't seen The Wire as much as you guys. What's the context of that meeting? I can't remember. What led to it?
So Bunk is looking for a gun. I think that's it, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
And Omar is he's a breadcrumb on his trail, and he kind of refuses to cooperate.
That's right, because Bunk is putting pressure on him to cooperate and saying he'll turn one of the girls in the stick-up crew. But it's just one of the most incredible scenes. So we haven't selected it, but you guys go and watch it after this. And throughout the whole thing, Omar's basically getting lectured, and it's all in the face. So he's getting lectured. He sits the whole scene. He very rarely looks at Wendell Pierce, if at all. And he's getting admonished, and it's almost sort of parental. And they're talking about how they grew up in the same area and they've gone their different paths. But they talked about this sort of the old sort of rules of when they grew up in that time, sort of the code. But Wendell Pierce absolutely goes to town on him, and you don't know if it's cutting through. And then there's this as it ends, like there's just this beautiful ambiguity to it. So Omar sort of ends with Omar just looking forward. And he's glassy-eyed, or is he not glassy-eyed? Has that cut him, or has it not cut him? It's an incredible reaction without saying anything. And I just thought... And the way the scene is blocked, the way it's set up, two people, one of them stationary, while the other one moves around. It's like... And the language... and the cadence in the language, the rhythm to it, it's just like Shakespeare. And it's just... It was just great. It was so good.
We had some bad boys for real. It wasn't about guns so much as knowing what to do with your hands. Those boys could really rack. My father had me on the straight. But like any young man, I wanted to be hard too. So I would turn up at all the house parties where the tough boys hung. Shit, they knew I wasn't one of them. Them hard cases would come up to me and say, "Go home, schoolboy, you don't belong here." Didn't realize at the time what they were doing for me. As rough as that neighborhood could be, we had us a community. Nobody, no victim who didn't matter. And now all we got is bodies and predatory motherfuckers like you. And out where that girl fell, I saw kids acting like Omar, calling you by name, glorifying your ass. It makes me sick, motherfucker, how far we done fell.
I love how you've just described that. That sums up Michael K. What's so good about Michael K. Williams is that ambiguity, because he doesn't give you everything from a character, right? And he kind of hints at so much more underneath, right? And in everything I've ever seen him in, it's like he himself has injected just history and depth into somebody by saying nothing. Literally in that scene, it's like says next to nothing.
Well, let's talk briefly about Omar as a character, because I mean, for me, and I think many of the people, such an amazing character trait was that he was an openly gay character in the show. he had his code, which was simple and true. He didn't swear, and alongside, I guess, Kima Greggs as well, being an openly gay character as well. The Wire for me is like pivotal. It must be pivotal for many people just to see gay people in TV just being normal. Kima had her problems with her partner, not because she was a lesbian, but just because she was having problems with the partner, and that's how it was. Michael K. Williams just happened to be a gay stick-up artist, and people knew he was gay. Some of the Stringer Bell and those guys took the piss out of him sometimes, but other than that, it was like, oh, okay, fine, he's gay. And rarely did you see that beforehand. And for me, that's the kind of place we need to get to. A lot of LGBT representation in TV and film and media. It's just like people, LGBT community, just being normal people and being able to be stick-up artists, being able to cheat on their partners. That kind of thing is beautiful, and MKW played it so beautifully in that respect as well.
Yeah, because it was never a plot point, right? No. That's what you mean. Like, because TV of that era would have, or movies, it would have been... He would have
had ribbons in his hair, dancing down the street.
I was watching an interview earlier, Kobe, and the interviewer asked Michael K. Williams about his kind of affinity for the LGBT community, and he was kind of saying he was he was just different when he was growing up, so he wasn't kind of in gangs. He was taught about the streets by his best friend, and his best friend was a lesbian. And kind of part of that life was he would go to like lots of gay clubs, and he was never like weird Mike or like, soft Mike. He was just Mike there, and so he kind of learned to accept himself. And then when you watch The Wire, you see like Omar so comfortable in his own skin, like he's so kind of honest and accepting of who he is, and I kind of after seeing the interview, you could just see that's what Michael brought to Omar, and that's kind of what it's kind of part of what we all love about him. So I just thought it's a really telling story, and one worth sharing.
One of the things I was thinking about that is, I think once you, straight away in The Wire, they go, here's this fucking badass character, fucking crazy Robin Hood out on his own dude. Oh, and guess what? He's gay. Right, you get over the shock you straight away. So, right, you got over that. Right, we can do whatever we want with this character now. We can just do the most fantastical thing, because they play with him so much. They put him in as a sort of western in like stick-ups. They put him in a fish out of water comedy when he's in court. Which we'll talk about as well. And
or when he's in with the police. Yeah.
Or they put him in. They can
put him in a granny outfit.
Put him in a granny, put him in like a heist thing. Yeah, like a granny,
that was too far from me.
But that's, I think, you got over that, right? Fucking here, we can just play now with this guy, and yeah, I just an awesome character, isn't it? Awesome.
I think we should maybe finish on the court scene on a bit of levity. Who wants to go first? Out? Who didn't pick the court scene? Tom, I think you should. Shall
I pick another scene?
No, you pick your scene, the one where he ends up with the. It's one of the Omar Cummings scenes.
Well, we talked about how you can do whatever with Omar. So this is a straight up scene out of a western. It's one of the classic Omar Cummings scenes, and I think it's from season 1, and it's the one where, and it's the way it's constructed is brilliant, because you've got the parallels. So Omar's drawing in the dirt the map of the town and making these plans for this stick up, this ingenious stick up, which involves walking down one way and and two people walking the other way. But when Omar actually does the stick up, it's like you hear people in the town sort of saying, Omar's coming up, and everyone scatters. It's the classic, someone riding into town. But what I love about it is everyone's scattering. You've got the whistle as well, which is so western. He's whistling the classic theme. Favourite things about the scene, though, I can't remember who the fat guy is who gets up and runs, but he drops his portable CD player.
Yeah.
Love that. I wonder, and it smashes. Is the sort of one you got free with a bank account when you're a student?
Yeah, that's what in the UK, guys. We got a free bank account. Where you got a free CD with a bank account when you became a student. And I had one of those, and if I dropped mine, I would have been absolutely mortified.
Yeah, man. I bet you had the bass boost on and everything. And anyway, they walk down this alley. They run down this alleyway, and Omar's other two crew members are coming the other way. And that's it. And then there's a really weird line at the end of it, and I didn't understand. I don't know if you guys know what the line's like.
The line is "the cheese stands alone." And
the cheese stands alone. What is that?
So this is some factoids for you guys. So I thought the tune that he whistles is "The Farmer in the Dell,"
Yes.
We talked about this in season 1, and someone said, no, that's not the Farm in the Dell, it's the Hunting We Will Go. It's the same tune. I was like, okay, I thought it was Farm in the Dell because I read it in some book about The Wire. And then randomly, I was reading a nursery rhyme book, and it had all the lyrics for The Farm in the Dell. And the last line in The Farm in the Dell is "The cheese stands alone." No, Hunting Will. The last line in The Farm Will Go is "The cheese stands alone." So it is definitely he's whistling the Farm in the Dell song, not the Hunting We Will Go. And it's just literally, he just literally says that last line of the song.
That's the final line.
Which is so cool. Because I used to think it was related to Cheese Wagstaff, but I was like,
this is
the
what
cheese
I was
isn't
thinking.
in the series yet. But maybe they know Cheese Wagstaff in the season already, but we haven't met him yet. But yeah, that's what it is.
So that was the scene I just thought you had to have an Omar come in scene.
Absolutely. I think you're totally right.
It's brilliant.
Yo! Hey, yo! Check it out. Here it comes.
Something ain't right, yo.
Watch out, man. Here come that fool. It's packing. Here he comes.
Yo, son, come on. Yo, Omar coming, man. Oh, shit! Yeah. The cheese stands alone.
My favourite scene is the one I chose and we talked about in season 3, and you probably know what it was because I showed my cards earlier. Omar versus Brother Muzone. Oh, there's not a versus, but it's a confrontation, Mexican standoff in an alleyway, and it's just some of the best dialogue between two amazing actors. I'm not going to try and say his lines because there's no justification for it. I know we're going to play the scene in a second, but what that leads to directly afterwards, and obviously spoilers, guys, is the death of Stringer Bell, and the way it's set up, the way it's shot, it's just absolutely beautiful. I can't think of a thing that puts me on edge more than that scene sometimes when I think about it and how it's all put together. It's just beautiful.
Nice showpiece you got there.
Walther, PPK, 380, double action.
Hit them Walters like to jump some.
As will you, with one in your elbow.
That gun ain't got enough firepower to make my joint useless. It definitely won't stop me from emptying out half my mag.
You might not hit me.
This range? And this caliber? Even if I miss, I can't miss.
I admire a man with confidence.
I don't see no sweat in your brow neither, bro.
I suppose we could stand here all night.
Suppose we could. Or settle this once and forever.
I want to ask you something, brother.
Omar listening.
Well, it wouldn't be The Wire stripped if we didn't include a couple of burner messages, and this episode is no different. So right now you're going to hear from Rasul Moat, who you heard from in Season 3, and first up, Joe Kiley.
When I think of Omar's defining moments, there are many pivotal and memorable scenes. But I like to think of his quieter moments. For instance, when he confronts Bubbles in Season 1 and calls him snitchin' Bubs, that line conveys so much about the character. Number 1, he's the only player to have figured out Bubbles is an informant. Number 2, he recognises that they have a common enemy in the Barksdales. And number 3, that he can turn this situation to his advantage. Immediately prior to his court appearance, Omar helps a sheriff fill his crossword with Ares, the Greek rather than Roman god of war. This small act tells us he relieves suffering when he can, that his street smarts extend to book smarts, and that he has a keen interest in mythology, not least his own. There was no one in The Wire like Omar, but Omar was like a lot of other characters. He was strategic like Stringer, a soldier like Avon, sly like Prop Joe, and could pull a caper like Bubbles. He could verbally spar with Maury Levy, or he could remind Bunk of the path he himself could have walked. Omar defies stereotype and reminds the audience that there is always more than meets the eye. In less capable hands than Michael K. Williams, we might not have experienced the nuance and richness this character deserved.
So much respect to the memory of Michael K. Williams and respect to his family, but first respect to those others that gave us depth and reason for hailing The Wire as a show worth something to all of us. DeAndre McCullough, who plays Lamar, passed away on August 1st, 2012, and who was the focus of the Corner, the book, as well as the show that sets off The Wire. Robert F. Chu, who was Proposition Joe, who passed away on January 17, 2013, who in fact, Michael K. Williams was the first to sort of tweet about his death and sort of let us all know that, this particular character and person, left us. Reggie Cathay, Norman Wilson, who played Norman Wilson, passed away on February 9th, 2018. But returning to Michael K. Williams, to think that Omar was his first major acting role ever is just remarkable. The future was bright from that point on, and how he shined for so many of us. In a brief short by him from HBO and The Atlantic, he was reflecting on his many characters and the notion of him being typecasted. He truly was an embodiment of someone, of a certain type of people, from a certain type of place that look a certain type of way, both within the United States and under capitalism. And so how else could it be? But it does not mean that it is what he only was or what any of us are limited to being. He reflected back through tortured characters so much richness and perseverance and care. The aforementioned Omar Devon Little, who was the younger brother of No Heart Anthony on The Wire, Chalky White on Boardwalk Empire, Bobby McRae, father of Antron McRae on When They See Us, and most recently, Montrose Freeman on Lovecraft Country. And then out of character, he became a host for the first season of Vice's Black Market that brilliantly highlighted the illegal economies that sustain those who have been discarded by the mainstream legal economy. The shows all benefit from his credibility from the life he did live and the lives he portrayed. How else did he get gun renters and car thieves and abalone fishermen and people addicted to heroin and lean to talk with him and us on camera? But he could also be quietly seen doing work with those who are connected to the carceral system, both inside and outside, those experiencing homelessness and addiction, and others through a range of efforts, including his own organization, We Build the Block. So again, truly respect to the memory of Michael K. Williams. Rest in film, dance, and honesty.
I actually chose another Bunk and Omar scene. It's when they first kind of meet in series 1.
Yeah. And they've just caught Bird.
That's right. Yeah. And I don't know if like the writers kind of always had it in their minds that these two would meet each other, or it's the actors themselves had like a really great rapport. But for whatever reason, these two together just like really works, and it like runs and runs. But I just really like this scene because you learn that like Omar's got a code. There are kind of like things that he's more than happy to do, and there are things that like he kind of won't do. And there aren't kind of many characters that are as kind of sincere and kind of how just they are in The Wire, and I kind of really respect that about Omar. And yeah, I don't know. I just really love the scene, and also you kind of find out that Omar and Bunk have this like backstory that they kind of knew each other at school, and he's really impressed that he played lacrosse, and it's just like it kind of I don't know. It kind of marks Omar out as just like really different to kind of all the people that inhabit the kind of life in Baltimore.
I think that bit you just said there kind of talks out how people going to the same school can end up in completely different places, and obviously when you talk about season 4, you don't know where all these kids are going to end up. They're going to middle school. Some will be the new Michael, some will be the new Bunk, potentially out of this, and it's all kind of laid out there.
Hey man, I know you from somewhere.
Yeah. I was in Southwestern before I came to Homicide. I worked Frederick Road.
Nah, I mean back in the day. You go to Edmondson, right? Yeah, you was ahead of me. I remember you was the first brother I ever seen play that sport with a stick. What's it called?
Lacrosse, man.
For sure.
Yeah. I was all Metro Attack. Prep school boys used to pee themselves when they see the old Bunk coming at them, you know? Oh, man. So look here, homie. Seeing as how you being all charitable with your recollections, what else you got in the way of open murders?
Going to Barksdale?
Going anywhere.
How far back you want me to go?
As far as you need. Murder stay murder.
Before we get to the courtroom scene, which is the one that I as soon as we were talking about this in the WhatsApp group and somebody said, let's each do a scene, I got in straight away. I was like, courtroom scene, that's it. But talking about season 4 and the kids, we just recently chatted about that amazing cold open. I forget which episode it is, 2 or 3 of season 4, which is just like a day in the life of Omar. Do you remember? It's like he gets up wearing his. There's so many good moments in that.
He's got a silk robe.
Robe, and then can't holster his gun anywhere on the silk robe because it's too heavy, and then goes out. There's no cereal, right? So then he's like, "Oh,
Honey Nut.
go get some cereal." The Honey Nut Cheerios. It's the wrong one. It's just this tiny little, and it's just this. The whole cold open is just him trekking to the shop to get Honey Nut Cheerios or whatever, and come back, and you get to experience the world, like from Omar's perspective, as everything as a ghost town emerges around him, like just like vacant.
Everyone just
scattering, and then there's a lot of comedy in it. They drop he stops for a cigarette. They drop a bag of drugs next to him, and it's just this is him realizing his world has got too easy or boring. But I think to segue into the courtroom scene, what's so good about Omar is that like he is one of the best characters in The Wire or possibly on TV ever. But to Tom's one, and both the other ones, the Kobe and Obi, that's him in like intense moments, bringing gravitas and depth and sincerity. But he also brought comedy really well. It was in the script, but like Omar again calling back to that, or sorry, Michael K. Williams calling back to that community thing, just seemed to have really good natural comedy chops. And I think that courtroom scene is nominally like a comedy scene, right? It's and for everyone, as a reminder for everyone, this is season 2, right?
Yeah.
And Bunk is being called to testify, but this is a follow-up from the scene Obi was talking about, where he's testifying against Bird, and he's being cross-examined, and he's wearing the tie that they selected to make him, but like his normal clothes are just the tie. Like that's Omar taking the piss out of the system, right? Like it's a fuck you to the system. Like, yeah, I'll wear your tie and nothing else. But it's played for comedy, but it's actually just like that line. I got you got the briefcase, I got the shotgun.
Yeah,
that is one of the best lines in The Wire. It's one of the greatest lines in TV history, because it you could distill all of The Wire into that one line. right? This is that's everything it's trying to say. It's we are all part of the same system. You know, you and I are no different. We all have different. We have different tools, but we're part of the same game, right? And they are, and that's another thing that was so good about Omar as a character, and which Michael K. Williams brought to it, was the intelligence behind him, you know, and the insightfulness. In the scene before that, before he goes into court, he's casually dropping like Ulysses references or Greek mythology, isn't he, with the security guard? Like there was just there's so much hidden depth to Omar.
He was helping solve a crossword puzzle as well. Someone couldn't tell the difference between the Greek and Roman gods.
That was it. Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're thinking of the Greek one. The Roman one is blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right.
There was just so much more to Omar that we didn't, like, it just there were hints of it, the iceberg thing on screen. And I felt like it's the same with Michael K. Williams. I feel like there was just so much to that man that we didn't see, and sadly we'll, never get to see.
So you rob drug dealers. This is what you do.
Yes, sir.
You walk the streets of Baltimore with a gun, taking what you want when you want it, willing to use violence when your demands aren't met. This is who you are. Why should we believe your testimony then? Why believe anything you say?
That's up to y'all, really.
You say you aren't here testifying against the defendant because of any deal you made with police.
True that.
That you're here because you want to tell the truth about what happened to Mr. Gant in that housing project parking lot.
Yep.
When in fact you are exactly the kind of person who would, if you felt you needed to, shoot a man down on a housing project parking lot and then lie to the police about it, would you not?
Hey, look, I ain't never put my gun on no citizen.
You are amoral, are you not? You are feeding off the violence and the despair of the drug trade. You're stealing from those who themselves are stealing the lifeblood from our city. You are a parasite who leeches off
just like you,
the culture of drugs. Excuse me? What?
I got the shotgun. You got the briefcase. It's on the game, though, right?
Well, Dave was talking about the crossword puzzle scene there, and we had a message about that on the burner from Katie McDermott, so let's roll that.
Hi, my name is Katie, and I'm from Philadelphia, PA, which is only a couple hundred miles away from Baltimore. My favorite Omar memory is the scene right before he goes on the stand in his famous courtroom scene, which is hilarious. Make no mistake, and I love that one. But right before he is being guarded or whatever by one of the police officers who is doing a crossword puzzle and cannot get, the clue is the Greek god of war. The police officer has put Mars, and it is Omar who tells him, no, it's not Mars, it's Ares. Same dude, different names. I just thought it was such a charming little detail, and so unexpected, too, coming from Omar. Mr. Williams played everything just perfectly, and he will be sorely missed. Thanks. Bye.
Right, guys. Should we talk about some more key Omar scenes before we head off and reminisce in solo? Well, I can kick off with one if you want, which was slightly ridiculous, actually, and I suspect Dave might not be so happy with this one. It's the one where there's a firefight between Omar, Chris Partlow, Snoop, and I think Jamie Hector was there as well in a block of flats, and Omar jumps out the window from the 5th floor and lands, and then you don't see him for like 2 episodes, and it's almost like a superhero thing. It's almost like a Marvel. It's almost like Fast and Furious thing. So it's super different to everything else in Why. All of our favourite scenes we've talked about are conversations, but this is like a real bona fide bit of like supernatural action, but it's still something that stands out, and it's still like, oh yeah, if any character was going to do this in Why, it would have been Omar, because he had just that thrive, that will to win, that kind of that lust for life. was just kind of magnificent, but also it does err on the Fast and Furious 10, Fast and Furious 9 levels of silliness.
That's what I mean, though, isn't it? That's what they do. They can do anything with Omar. Like, you get on board with the fact that he's this gay, stick up Robin Hood character at the start, and then fucking just do what you want. I mean, there must have been loads more they could have done. I mean, yeah, we're not even going to mention half of them, I reckon. But
no.
It's just they could be silly with him, serious with him, just everything, and you buy it. It's great.
Now I'm just even more sad that we'll never see him in a Fast and the Furious movie, because I think
he would have been amazing.
He would have been great, yeah.
Any other scenes, guys? I've got a couple.
Oh yeah, there was a scene I was thinking about this week. It's actually in season 5 after he dies, and it's a scene in the newspaper with Gus. For some reason, there's only like 4 paragraph space left in the newspaper. Like Gus is given like a choice of whether they mention Omar's death or they mention like a fire in some building, and for some reason they choose the fire, and it really annoyed me at the time, because I know like The Wire's like unsympathetic, but the fact they just kind of like gloss over a really important character's death with just like there's nothing fire, it really upset me. But kind of thinking about it this week, just kind of it was the complete opposite, like just such an outpouring of love and like appreciation for this character, and it wasn't appreciation for the character, and it wasn't for Michael, it was for Omar. People loved that character, and I feel like this week he kind of got the obituary and the eulogies that he really deserved, even if David Simon didn't give it to us in that moment.
Nicely said.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, Obi. Well, there's two scenes I think we should talk about, at least in brief. One is what follows the Omar and Brother Mazone scene where they kill Stringer, and then there's Omar's death as well. And I guess we'll take season 3 first, but both of those were surprises for me. Both of those in first watching were surprise. How they banded together and killed Stringer Bell. It's still such an amazing scene in itself, and probably the only way you could have got Stringer Bell. The two of the smartest cats in the whole of the Eastern Seaboard had to bandy together to get this guy into a disused warehouse, run up to the top of a warehouse in the pincer movement. That's the only way you're going to get Stringer Bell, and that's what they did. And it's still amazing and still shocking and still brilliant to this day. And
they were both solo agents living outside of that, kind of apart from everything else, because I think anyone else, like if Prop Joe had come for Stringer, he'd have seen it a mile off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's another far-fetched scene, isn't it? Like all the ones that Omar seems to be the ones that have a bit of like magical realism to them or something. They're just a little bit fantastic, aren't they? This is the theme of them. They're all absurd.
Well, running with your idea then, Tom, I'm kind of thinking wouldn't it have been great if season 6 of The Wire they'd just been like, he was a Highlander the whole time, and then
show that
Christopher Lambert comes for him and starts sword fighting.
It's just it's just all believable though.
But I think the magic of the opposite of magical realism there is the almost dour way he died, with getting, I think it was cigarettes or orange juice or Honey Nut Cheerios in a bodega and shot by Kennard, shot by a little kid unexpectedly. And I guess for me that's probably the only way Omar could have died as well. If he's jumped out of a block of flats and survived, he's taken on Stringer Bell and Brother Mazone and survived, then the only way he can die is by completely not expecting it, which is some kid who previously ran away from him.
That death really hit me hard, not just because it was Omar and he was a great character and it was obviously sad to lose it, but because TV deaths always have such, just the one you mentioned, Stringer Bell, it's just like they have such pomp and circumstance or whatever, they're a big deal and they get sort of, there's a build up and all that. Like Omar's death is just so unexpected and so unceremonious and just so pointless that firstly it's shocking, but it's just it just reminds you that Jesus, death is just present for all of us and could happen at any moment. And I think that felt very grounded and real, as you say.
Guys, I'm not sure. I think we're running out of time here, kid duties and everything. But for everyone who's listening, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. And if you have any comments to say about Michael K. Williams and Omar and the things we're doing here, please do reach out to us on social media or email us, producers@thewirestripped.com. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. We'll be coming out with more episodes soon. One thing we should say, I guess, is that we've started recording season 4. The first few episodes we recorded were before Omar passed, before Michael Williams passed. So I think we'll probably make a note of that when we start recording again, Dave, just to say, mark that line in the sand. So we previously might have been a bit more callous about stuff related to Omar, but we'll talk about that. But
is this a production meeting?
It is. Yeah, sorry. This is behind the scenes. This is behind the weeds. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys. It's been a pleasure talking about Omar, talking about Michael K. Williams, and it's sad.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in power, as I like to say nowadays.
Oh, nice.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.